Yeah, you ready? You ready for a good show today?
I am. I'm so excited to get the first one up and going because,
Oh,
I
okay.
feel like with so many things, people will talk about it forever and, this would be a great idea. And then it kind of dies in great idea land. So it's always something to really have an idea and then do the
Yeah.
thing.
You know what? I think that's very typical of anything, right? I think when people have an idea, so many times you go, dude, that's brilliant. That's an awesome idea. That's great. But they don't take that next step, right? Or it gets a little difficult and you just stop. And I think that's what separates a lot of people from those that achieve their dreams and those that are dreamers.
No, absolutely. And a little birdie might have told me that you have a dream of your own. And I always love hearing about Smith Arenas, and I think our audience is going to be thrilled to hear more about Smith Arenas. So,
I, I
what is
gotta
your?
I gotta do Smith Arenas. All right.
You know what? I'm just gonna say I.
I'll see you. Yeah, and raise you one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's it all about? What is this dream that you have?
All right. So should we go through it? Should we talk a little bit about what Smith Arenas is all about and
I
why we're
am
doing the show? What the heck are we doing, huh?
I
All
am
right.
ready.
So I'm going to start with very high level, right? Because it's easy to go, hey, there are sports facilities and we play sports. That's not really what
The
it's about,
end.
right? Yeah, the end. That's it. I think it comes from, there comes a point in your life where you get old and you become a parent and you start knowing that there's more important things in life than what you want to do. And you start saying, all right, how do we help other people? How do we leave the world a better place than we came into it? And I think that's the thought. So, my son growing up in sports, my daughter grew up in dance. So I was a professional taxi driver.
Did you have the chauffeur
See,
gloves and everything?
I'm just a chauffeur. Yeah. So you're taking the kids all around. And, kind of at one point, right, we had a bunch of us dads who were like, how come we don't have anything close to us? Like we're driving an hour to go to this facility, right? And then when us adults would play, we drive even farther, right? We're driving an hour and 20 minutes. And we're like, man, we need something around here. Well, that turns into, well, let's research and figure out, is this really something that's needed, right? It's one thing to go, I want it. I want it in my subdivision, right? Because that'd be easy. But really, does the community need it? You find out, yeah, it does. Well, as you start talking to other communities, you're like, oh no, that's not just for one region. It's not just in the Midwest or the East Coast. Every place needs it, right? And we need lots of them. And so you start looking into it and going, okay, listen, if we're going to put in the effort and the time to do this, is it going to be impactful? Yeah, you talk to communities, you talk to the members, you talk to the coaches who are like, we can't even get our volleyball club, into a gym. And it's like, holy cow, we've got 20 teams, we've got 30 teams. It's like, oh man. So that's where we started looking at it and saying, okay, listen, we got to do something about it. So long story longer, we end up doing a lot, kind of, getting together with architects and engineers and saying, how do we build this, the best thing we can do, right? You see that Kevin Costner film, Field of Dreams, where it's like, build it and they will come. I don't think that's it. I think you could. You probably do just fine. But I think when we look at the numbers, I think what you need to do is you need to address a certain number of things that help kids out, right? One is, yeah, we put a roof over. So, a roof over this building, great. You can go in and you can play soccer or basketball or whatever. Okay. But I think when you start looking at what kids need now and what they're going to need as time continues, is I think there are a couple of things. And I think we need to address not just physical ability to be able to play sports and get out on turf or hardwood or whatever it might be. That's fine. But I think we look at it kind of more of a 360 approach, right? So instead of kids getting dropped off and for 45, 50 minutes, they're playing volleyball and then they're getting out of there and they're going back to eat somewhere. And then they got to go to a coach's house to watch game film. And then they got to go to Planet Fitness or LA Fitness or Gold's Gym or whatever and get their workout in. We said, let's do that all in one place. And so we've got that kind of 360 model that's set up where we go, okay, great. You can come in, right? You can go to the Gronk Fitness gym, right? Get that all set. You've got areas you can do homework. You can do your video review with your teams. Then get out on the pitch, right? Get out on the courts. And then when you're done, grab nutrition on the way out, right? I think as a parent, what I like about that is you go, sweet, first of all, a lot less driving. That's a
Right.
big bonus. But I think, secondly, I think probably more importantly, the kids, when they're done with school, we used to have it like growing up. We'd be done with school, we'd go to practice, right? You're a little tired, you get home, you're trying to eat something, and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and you're like, I got a paper due tomorrow morning, right? And you're like, you do it. It's not your best work. This way, you've got it set where kids can come in, get their homework done first, right? Then get everything done. And you go, oh, it's cool. So at the end of the day, when these guys leave at 7, 8 at night, they're done, right? Everything's set. Mom doesn't have to worry about anything. So that was kind of a cool thing. And then as we look at it and we start looking at other communities, we start looking at who are the communities that really need this, right? Who needs a facility? And it's not like a one size fits all. It's not like we go, hey, we're going to put in hockey arenas everywhere we go, right? You do a feasibility study and find out different areas like Boston and Buffalo and, Charlotte, North Carolina and Atlanta, Georgia and, Dallas, Texas. You start finding out what is really needed through these feasibility studies. And they tell you really of the clubs, of the offerings, of the current facilities. Here's what's needed. Here's what's going to be needed over the next 5-10 years and beyond. So you can really structure this out. So we kind of set up, which I think is brilliant. We've got, our architects who set up this beautiful modular design where you can start off with one element of it and then build on through the years to come. So if you go, hey, I'm assuming we're going to need more volleyball, but I think we need indoor turf. Well, if your build out is another 2-3 years away, you can start looking at the demand right at that point and really figure out what's needed. So it's super cool. So anyway, that is a really long answer to it, but
No, I mean
but
it sounds incredible. And I mean, I
yeah,
know I grew up playing swimming. I grew up swimming
I
and
like playing swimming. It's fun.
it's you don't want to lose at that game, let me tell you, if you're playing swimming. No, and my nutrition was normally whatever was in the vending machine, like in
Yeah,
between and trying to get homework in real fast. So,
right,
but
right. Yeah,
it's
and
exciting.
yeah, it is tough too. Yeah, when you look at that, it's especially when you have a sport, you've got a lot of things on your mind, right? Put yourself back when you were 15.
No, thank you.
And yeah, and you're like, all right, I got to get, to my swim practice. I got to make sure I get this homework done. My gosh, I've got a quiz in this class. I got a test in this one. By the way, my friend's mad at me for some reason. I forgot to do the dishes when I left. So I know my mom's going to be mad at me, right? You got a lot of things on your mind. And I think that was something where we thought when we were first thinking of what are we all about? Are we all about a place where you can come and like run on turf? I don't think that's it. So we kind of came up with this acronym that I think really fits, right? And I think for us, we kind of looked at it and we said, we kind of went through in kind of inverse way, but kind of spells out Smith, which is great, not accidental, but but yeah. So when we look at it, first thing first is we want people to be really genuinely good people, right? I don't care if you're a professional at the end of your career, right? Or if you're like, yeah, I tried volleyball for a couple of years. I thought it was cool. I just play casually. Awesome. But you should be a better person. So sportsmanship, right, starts us off. That's the S in Smith Arenas, right? And you always see Smith like capitalized all, it's an acronym. So not just something that's my last name, but
You're not just
it's
shouting it from the
actually stands for something. Yeah. So yeah, so we've got that. And then secondly, I think, we talked about those pressures that these kids are under, right? And it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters if you're 9, right? If you're 15, if you're 35, you always have different things that are on your mind that take your focus. And I think we wanted to have a focus on mindfulness, right? So it's
Oh,
that
I
thing
have to
where,
stop you right there for one
yeah.
second. I
Oh,
am thrilled to hear you say that because this
no,
past
for you.
summer
Yeah.
I learned how to meditate and really brought that practice into my life. And if I could have started to learn these skills when I was 15 versus when I was in my mid 30s, it is
Yeah.
incredible. I actually just saw a study that was done where they had two different groups of athletes and they told one of the groups before the game, I want you to go over the instructions of what you're going to have to do. Run the plays in your head, or, okay, this, that, that. And then the other group, they just said, I want you to speak positively about yourself. Give yourself that little, I am the best, I am the greatest, I can rise to any challenge. And
Yep.
let's just say that group B blew group A out of the water consistently. And it's
Right.
just, you know, we can all work out our muscles and go to the gym, but so many people forget that kind of having that mind workout as well, that is sometimes that little edge that can bring you from a pretty great player to, a legend essentially. So I
You're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
so I
And I'm
think it's
glad you do that
incredible.
too.
It
Yeah. It's awesome that you do that, that you're into it. And I mean, you're consistent with it too, right? So you do a lot of meditation, right? You can tell that you've got the tools to be able to deal with whatever's going on.
It's a term I keep hearing a lot more, that adaptation energy, how much you can handle change, and where more than when you're playing sports, do you have 1,000 different changes happening at every second, and when your mind is able to kind of stay in that flow state a little bit and not get so caught up and, "Oh, I should be doing" no, just, I can go with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
flow, and at the end of the day, maybe it means I'm scoring a goal or I'm, whatever the case may be, but it's way more important than I think kind of once you're on the other side of it and you realize, because I know if there's 3 or 4 days where I kind of skip on my meditation, I'll feel that almost like, I can't get on top of things," and it's like, "Oh, wait, I think I know what this missing piece might be," and it's just that little bit of time to get quiet with yourself and let whatever needs to come into focus. Like, I'm not telling myself what will come into focus. Whatever is there is gonna be there, that's great, and then we go on to the next thing. It's probably why the first time I played
Yeah.
golf, I wasn't miserable.
No, you know what? Hey, I'll tell you what. I loved it too. Like, obviously, your sister's really good, right? Her boyfriend's awesome. You and I are trying to hang. We're like, all right, let's let's go. But yeah, I mean, your first time out there. Here's what I loved. In this is a great thing, and you can tell this is why I say you've got great tools for it. Um, so we're out there, and usually the drive, right? Everybody looks good when you're golfing. Everybody's on the first tee box. You look good. You get your new outfit, right? You got your new clubs. It's all shined up.
Oh,
You're
I had
ready to go.
everything new.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. So, but it's when you hit that first ball, right? And then you'll see some people who go, oh, it's windy. Oh, it's a little wet out here. Oh, it's humid. They'll make excuses and their day is ruined immediately. And you're like, bro, we're going to be out here like 4 or 5 hours. So like, you better enjoy
Buckle
yourself.
up.
And I love, yeah, I love what you did. So it's like you get out there and we're getting close to the green. We're like 30 yards out. Now, here's the thing 30 yards out, right? You're using like a 60-degree, right? You're trying to, get it on the green, let it roll out slightly, let it pull back, whatever you're doing. You're just like, oh, yeah, yeah, I got this. This will be good, right? You just hit it up, knock it in. I'm like, yeah, you're kidding me. What is going on?
Well, and
That
it
was
was
awesome.
it was one of those things where I knew the only way to learn is to just do it and to not be
Yeah.
afraid of, not being a like a golfing prodigy right out the gate. Like I knew that that would probably be the worst one ever, so I might as well have fun with it. And I'm setting that baseline. And I think that's something that with that kind of hesitancy for action sometimes is people will get in their own way of, oh, but I'm not good enough. I don't know if I'm ready. Well, you're not going to be ready until like you'll never feel ready. So if you're waiting for that, good luck. But you just
Yeah,
got
oh,
to get
yeah.
out and do it and get that baseline. And then it's that 1% better every day. And the only one I'm in competition with is the person I was yesterday.
Yeah. And that's a great way. So when you look at mindfulness, that's what it's all about, right? Is for you personally, what are you focused on? Do you have the tools to deal with stressors? Right. And what are your goals? Where do you want to be? You don't have to be the greatest person. You don't have to be Tiger Woods tomorrow. Just are you enjoying it? Do you want to do it again? Yeah. Okay. You'll get better, right? If you're going to play for hundreds of hours, whether you like it or not, you'll probably get better, So
Right.
that's great.
And I appreciate your willingness to go with the flow as I derailed us for a second. So let's go back. What
No.
does that one
Yeah, whatever.
stand for?
Well, let's talk about it. All right. So you walk us through I. Why do we have I in our name?
Inclusivity.
Yeah.
It's a place for everyone. We don't want to be gatekeepers to someone's potential. And I think so often you have so many people that want that chance and they almost feel like life's against them. And I think sport is such a fantastic place where you can develop those skills of whether you're just interacting with with other human beings
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
learning how to play fair and even more than that, learning how to take a loss and know that that doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means that you have, if anything, it's great because now you have not hindsight, but you know what to focus on for the next game. You know, if I want to get 1% better somewhere, this is going to be that spot. And so making sure that everyone, it doesn't matter your age, your ability, your gender, your ethnicity. Everyone
Yep.
should have a spot at the table if they are willing to show up and do the work.
Yeah, and I think it gets into too what your focus is, right? When you have something like this, it's a positive environment. There are some people who are so into football, right? We've all got the buddy who's like, "Oh man, I remember my senior year in high school." It's like, dude, you're 50. Oh, I remember we were
Right.
playing against this team and it's third down. I'm like, dude, how do you remember that? It's crazy, right? But it's that kind of thing where some people are focused on sports. They love it. They're all into it. There are other people who are like, I'll come hang with you, dude, but I have no interest in playing volleyball,
Yeah.
right? I'm into video games. I'm in, whatever. Fine. That's why we have other things you can do there, right? It's an inclusive environment. You want to come and just like play your guitar? Come play your guitar. Like, cool. You want to get in the podcast studio and do a little go ahead, right? Fine with us. You want to cut a record?
Right.
If you can do it in the little studio, go ahead,
You could
right?
be no,
Yeah,
and
whatever. Just whatever your interest is, like just to come and hang out. It's great.
I love that.
Yeah. Yep. So then we've got, let's see. So, okay, we went through SMI, right? We got our T, which when you look at sports, you look at making sure other people are included, all that. It's part of teamwork, right? And, I think you can be an awesome athlete,
Mhm.
but a terrible teammate.
Oh,
I
yes.
think, and I think that's something you got to focus on. I think when you look at champions, when you look at people who have made it to like the top of the game, right? They're all pros, they're world champions. I think all of them have something in common. I don't doubt that when they were 5 years old, they dominated the playground, right? They got into middle school and high school, they dominated. They're all pros, they're awesome, right? All state. There comes a point where in college or, somewhere along the way, you start learning that if you want your team to win games, carry them, do your thing, right? You want to win championships, know what your role is and learn how to support other people, get them involved, right? I
Yes.
think, you look at like somebody like Kobe, you look at Michael Jordan, right? Those are guys who, oh my gosh, like you talk about getting a team involved, right? You look at somebody like Gronk, best tight end ever, right? But you're telling me that dude won't throw a hefty block? Like who was the guy he threw a block to?
Oh
They're
my.
coming down toward the end zone and he just took him. What do you call it? Taking him out of the club? Like, dude, he took him
Right.
10 yards off the sideline. But that's what you do, right? You're willing to give up your body and all your effort, right, to make way for somebody else, right? When we play soccer, I mean, I love soccer. I think it's awesome. Love basketball. Love playing it. I'm terrible at both, but it's fun. But the thing that gives me the most joy is like if we're coming down in soccer and I see somebody streaking on the other side, guaranteed, I'm going to set this dude up for like one heck of a great goal, right? So I'll just float it. They can head it in. Awesome. Give them something, right? But for them, it's like it might be the highlight of their night. I don't know. But it
It
gets them
probably
involved, and all of a
is.
sudden, yeah, the rest of the night they're just hot, man. They're just like feeling it. It's so cool. It's like when you give somebody some nice bounce pass right in basketball, kind of draw their defender off, toss it off to them, and they get an easy layup, whatever. You can tell I play with old guys. It's not toss it off and they get a dunk, toss it off and they get a layup. But you do something like that, you involve other people, gets them really going, right? And so that's really cool. So that's kind of that teamwork play. And I think we see that right with us when we're working, doing the show, whatever. It's nothing where you go, let's just flippantly go out there. I'm going to carry us, ready to go.
Right.
No, it's let's figure it. We'll figure stuff out together, right? I think if that's your mindset in work, in life, I think you really go a long way, right? If you start with the mindset of how can I help you today, right?
Right, and I
That
think
that's
it
a super
even
cool thing.
adds a little sense of security because you have that support system. No one ever wants to be the one person kind of shoved up and be like, "Oh, oh, like this is all on me."
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's another thing that I don't know if sometimes pride gets in the way, but when it's asking, a team is there for a reason. And if you all have the same end goal, working together, it's going to make life easier for everybody. But it's
Oh
also
yeah,
I mean, we're human. Let's be real. We're going to have our good days, our bad days, our, who knows what days. And that's okay because then,
hmm
sometimes I might need to rely on someone a little bit more than I would like to admit. But I know somewhere down the line, I'll be able to return that favor. And it's as
yeah,
you build that trust, build that rapport, it just, the dividends pay out tenfold because, like I said, you're all going for that same goal. And
yeah.
if you want to win, it will always take a team.
And I would say this too. I would say with that, right, a great question to ask yourself, right? You don't have to wait until you're in the middle of a game or after a game. Just in life, Are you a good teammate? Right? It's a good question. How would you answer that? Are you a good teammate, Christine?
I would say yes.
Okay, all right, great. Why? Why are you a good teammate?
Because I always put myself last. I like to try to see the whole picture, how everything works together. And if I notice something is, or someone is maybe struggling a little bit, even if they don't ask for, coming in with that support. And it's also such a mindset thing as well. And like, if you want to look for the bad things, you'll find the bad things. If you want to look for the positive
Hmm.
things, you'll find those as well.
Yeah, yeah, you're
And
right.
it's that encouraging, and it's that we're going to get through this together. Like, there have been plenty of situations both while playing sport and just like in life in general where it's like, oh my gosh, this I would like this part to end right now. And it's that it's that ability to keep going forward. Like, one little phrase that I like to say a lot for a lot of situations is the only way out is through. Like, we have to get
Yeah,
through
yeah,
whatever we have to get through to get, whether it's the end of the game, the end of the championship, the end of, the project that I'm working on.
yeah,
And it's knowing that if we kind of band together and support each other, we're just going to get through it faster, and we're going to learn things along the way. It's going to be easier the next time that we have to face things. And so it's that very kind of big picture. All right, I'll throw the question back to you. Would you say you're a good
yeah.
teammate?
You know what? I think I'm a good teammate a lot of times. I think sometimes I'm not, right? I think sometimes I'll find myself if we're like, let's say for this, right? We're in a basketball game. If I know we need a bucket, I know that I can come down and get us a bucket. It I might miss, right? I mean, here's the thing. I'm not a I'm not a professional player. I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss a lot. Um, I think I've been guilty of being really focused on myself within the game a lot. But I think throughout the years, you start realizing times when you need to come through and lift your team, other times where you need to get your team involved. I think I've become a much better judge of that. And really, I've started probably the past 20 years. Um, Boy, you know what? Maybe before that, I think like even in track in high school, I started doing that, where it really starts beforehand, right? Before we even start, before the whistle blows, whatever it is, you start checking in with people, right? And kind of pumping up. You talked a little bit earlier about that test between like, okay, here's what I need to do regiment style versus pumping yourself up. And I think we do that in a good way, right? But like, I think when somebody comes out, what a great thing to hear something like this, right? Like, I used to do the low hurdles, the high hurdles, the long jump, right? For some reason, the mile relay, which is like the worst. Don't ever do that. If anybody is in high school thinking about doing that, like don't, it's terrible. But anyway, but yeah, so when we do that, you start off and you go, man, looking strong, right? Say that to anybody in any sport, man, looking strong. They're like, oh yeah, all right, feeling good. All right, great, right? As they're doing stuff, go, oh man, do gold medal today. Absolutely, right? Check in with them a little bit. They get pumped. They'll come over. All right, cool. Listen to some music, kind of get ready. But yeah, I try to do that, and we can see even when we're practicing starting off, right? We'll have like soccer, we'll have with that. When we're kind of kicking it around, we'll kind of get things set. You've got your keeper who's trying to get ready, you know, and I know a lot of people are like, I got to work on my shot. I'm gonna go bottom corner. I'm gonna go upper corner. No, no, no. Get your keeper ready, man. That dude's important. So every shot we have curves into the keeper. He feels 10 feet tall and bulletproof, right? He's huge. He's stopping everything. Your shots, you can still work on your shot, but it's the placement, it's the curvature, it's, pacing of it. And you do that, and all of a sudden you pumped up your keeper. You got your warm up in, which is great. But you're kind of getting them ready. So I think I've become a better teammate. I think I still have a long way to go, right? But I think in life I try to check in with other people, make sure that they're motivated, inspired, ready to go. And hopefully I'm not too aggressive with my
Your
my
helpfulness.
helpfulness. Yeah.
No, and I will
but
say,
but
if
yeah,
you had asked me
yeah,
that question about 6, 9 months ago, my answer might have been
yeah,
different because I do
right,
think
yeah,
that the kind of meditation practice has shifted my perspective a bit from
hmm,
what do I care about? Do I want a result, or do I want to prove that I'm right or that I'm the best? And
yeah,
when I
yeah,
realize I don't need to put on a performance for everybody else, not to mention that's wasting a whole lot of energy that could be focused towards someone
and
else.
why?
So not to say
Yeah,
that I've always I've always been that way, but just
yeah,
like anything, with
yeah,
practice, it's a skill. You can get better if you
hmm,
just keep at it and keep showing up, and Uh, back to the H now. Would you like me to
Back to the H. H to
which
the Izzo. All right. So what's H?
health? And
Health.
one thing that I think people once you're on the other side of this, but without your health, you have nothing. I think we've all had that moment like going down the stairs, you tweak your back a little bit or something and suddenly you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't I can't
Yeah.
even function." And
Yeah.
it's all aspects of it. It's what are we putting in our body to fuel ourselves? Are we stopping at the vending machine, getting McDonald's on the way, or do we have a nice nutrient rich, meal shake made with real fruits and vegetables and
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just that, it's not just your nutrition, right? But it comes into mental health, right? When we look at drug use, we look at suicide, right, throughout the nation. I don't think we see a rapid decline in that, right? It's actually the opposite. But I think something like this, right? These facilities, right? This kind of programming helps out with so much. And I think when we do that, what we're doing is we're allowing these kids who are developing coming out. And I say kids, I'm sure, you'll have some 16-year-olds listening to this going, I'm a man. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm sure, yeah, you're becoming that way. Right. But I think, as our brain develops and we start having tools to get along with things, I think we need to all be there and be really mindful of our health in a lot of different ways. Mental health, probably your most important, right? Your nutrition, your physical health, there's a lot to it, but it's something where you need to really work on all of that. That's why when we have mindfulness in here and, hopefully, and you're doing some yoga classes and meditation classes for these guys. But when you do that, I think now you're working on all aspects. Like, here's what I love. So you look at something like this with health and you look at mental health. I think one thing that really helps your brain to really develop and stay active and, let's not get Alzheimer's and, kind of decay of the brain, right? But one thing you did, which I thought was really cool, because, I'm always curious and I want to learn. But you did the Duolingo thing.
oh yes, because if I'm
That
gonna
was
learn a
sweet.
language, why not start with a really easy one like Japanese?
Yeah.
But at one point, I
Okay.
was so deep into some of the lessons that I looked at my husband and I was like, "Do I even know English anymore?" Like my brain has turned into such. But I love that challenge and I
Yeah.
love, expanding, I would love to go to Japan one day. That's where my husband's from. I would love to be able to at least somewhat get around and understand the basic little conversations, but
Yeah.
boy was it humbling to not only have to learn one new alphabet but learn three. And but I'm so thankful that you decided to try a hard thing with me.
I'll tell you what, man, it's tough to learn. You're on like day 90 or something, right? What are
And
you
it's
on?
that little bit every day. I'm not trying to, get through a whole section at once, but that's why with any of the apps that kind of keep you checking in, keep holding you accountable, keep that streak going.
Yeah.
Because even if I just do one little 2-minute lesson, that over time it grows so much. And, I'll sometimes go back to some of the beginning ones that I remember going, I'm never going to get through this. I'm like, oh, wait,
Right.
I
Yeah, you get through it.
understand what I'm looking at.
I'll tell you, whenever we go to a new lesson, I'll tell you, first of all, I love Duolingo is pretty sweet.
Right.
Like, okay, and just so you guys know, like, they're not a sponsor of this or anything. We're just
No.
saying.
There
We're just saying. They do a great job because, like, you talk about being intimidated. I'm like, man, we're gonna learn Japanese. Holy cow! I took something in high school and college, which really comes in handy if you're ever traveling. French, which you'll never ever use. So I could say, hello, where's the library? Because, that's the first thing you're looking for when you're traveling. But yeah, but this was cool. Like Japanese was neat because, you look at it, I'm on day, I don't know, 84 or something like that. I'm a bit behind you. But yeah, it's, it teaches you in a way where it's somewhat repetitive. You can practice. Then it teaches you new words and it's like, hey, here's a new word. But like now I can say like, hi, my name's Mark and my shoes are white.
You're
Right? Something like that. I would like rice and water, things like that. But at least you kind of, you start getting it and picking it up, and it's super cool.
Oh, no, I
So I was
love
just
that
gonna say,
it gamifies it, and I
yeah,
also love that. I mean, I love and I hate that sometimes it will sprinkle in things that I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm not
Oh,
ready for it." Like when it takes away
right.
the English spelling, but it's like, I have to remind myself what I said probably 20 minutes ago. You're never going to feel ready for it. So I love that it
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
give you that gentle nudge, that gentle push into the, hope you let's see, you think you know these words? Let's see how you know them
Let's
without the
see.
English
Yeah.
spelling
Let's see.
above it.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you have no choice but to go through that, you realize I actually can get through it.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome. And it sounds good. I like to almost sound like an old samurai. Like, if I'm just walking around the house, right? And it's like, Watashi no kutsu wa gai desu. And you go, oh my God, that sounds awesome. What is that? Yeah, my shoe is red.
Right. We would joke because I like to think I'm your grandma and your grandpa at the same time because I love and your crazy uncle because I love knitting, I love bird watching, and I love Formula One. So like we'll just cover all the bases. But we joke that
Everything.
I
Yeah.
love old timey candy. And
Yeah.
we have a little Japanese grocery store that we'll go to, about once a week or so. And I'm learning what I'm picking now, but a lot of times I'm like, oh, this looks good. And there was one that he had to laugh when I picked it up because like this is like the oldest candy possible. Like this goes back like to the samurai days. And I'm like, oh,
That's crazy, man. You know what's funny? I was thinking about the other day and we were talking about it a little bit, and I gotta get this story right. So, okay. So growing up, you guys spent a ton of time at Comerica Park, right? Now, were you at the old Tiger Stadium or Comerica Park's like that's your second home?
so Comerica Park was our second home. They
Oh,
opened the
okay.
gates in 2000 and we had season tickets from '01 through '05 because we wanted
Oh
the
my
All-Star game. And I mean, of course we all know what happened in '06, but thankfully I had enough friends that I was able to still hang around. But yeah, it
yeah.
was my second home truly.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So, okay, so you're there and you're there, what is that, like 80 something games? Are you there for
So
like
out of
82
81
games?
home games a
Yeah.
season, we would be in attendance to about 75.
Holy
So the
cow. My God.
occasional,
Okay.
like, day game when my mom would be like, "No, you're not missing school for this." But other than and I mean, we would truly
Yeah.
be there from gates open. I would do my homework in the car sometimes. We had, I called him my Comerica Park dad. He was one of the ushers that kinda kept an
Yeah.
eye, and he'd, "Did you do your homework? Did you get" there?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we're good, we're
Wait,
good."
he'd ask you this?
Oh, yeah,
That's funny.
he would make sure, "Do you have sunscreen? Do you need some water?" Like,
Yeah.
it was
Oh, that's
truly a
hilarious.
second home.
And then what do you do? So you're there. You must see these players all the time, same guys, right? Like, are you by the pitch? Like, are you by like almost like the warm up area?
So our seats were in left field. This was before the bullpen moved because I was a
All right.
huge Bobby Higginson fan. But
Okay.
having said that,
Playing left field. Yeah.
where we
Yep.
sat was typically behind home plate. But the great thing about baseball is you just go down for batting practice. You can wander around wherever. And
Yeah.
unlike hockey, you don't really have a like glass and a board you have to go through. So if you go, hey, eventually,
They can
they
hear
get
you, huh?
and the years that we went, let's just say the Tigers weren't quite at the top of their game back then. So,
So you witnessed Trammell with his how many total games did he win that one season?
oh gosh, I think it's more of how many did they lose? I think I've
Yeah.
and one of my favorite things about that was how we tied for the worst record in base. I'm like, we can even be the best at being the worst. Like, we had to tie.
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
But I'm
Dude,
in a
that's
weird
funny.
way, I'm thankful for that because I mean, if posted attendance is 5,000 people, maybe half of that actually came through the gates. But it allowed us to have access to things that I don't think we would have otherwise.
Yeah.
We whether it was the other season ticket holders, there were a few of the guys that I kind of got to know a little bit, kind of like a big brother type thing. But it's like it was that special moment in time and so many of these incredible and trust me, we will have stories on stories on stories because I have more
Well,
than
tell us a story, right? Like we've got a couple stories, but I don't know all. You know how you know some of the details, but not all the details.
yes.
All right. So there's one ESPN magazine, right? They used to do that awesome magazine. Is it? I don't think it's still around, is it?
I mean, are any magazines around anymore?
Right. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah. Could be. I don't know. I don't know. I always get my monthly subscription to Life
Oh,
magazine.
yeah, it's
No, I'm just kidding.
your
But all
highlights
right. So,
magazine and then
yeah, right.
the
Yeah. So, all right. So, ESPN magazine, you are in the locker room. There's a picture of you in the magazine in the locker room, like on Cabrera's lap, next to Cabrera. What was going on there? I always
So,
picture in my mind you were sitting on his lap, but I don't know if that's accurate.
and I don't remember all the details, but we were hanging out with a friend. It was when Miggy first, before the season had started. This was probably in town for Tiger Fest, before they head down to Lakeland. And, it was the big news. It was the first time that Miggy was going to be in Detroit in a Tigers jersey, presses
Yep.
around. Again, how I was in the room, I don't know. But and my little Sony Ericsson camera phone, I wanted to take a picture with him. So we're kind of in front of his locker, I'm holding my phone up, getting a little selfie, and cut to like a few months later. And I was in college at the time, and a friend of mine texted me and he's like, dude, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I'm not, what did I tell you? He's like, you and Miggy. I'm like, I really don't know what you're talking about. He's like, you and Miggy are in ESPN the magazine. I was like, what? He's like, go down to the bookstore right now. So I, toss on my slippers and kind of wander down to to the bookstore from that because it was connected to the dorm I was in. So I'm looking through and
It's funny how old you can sound so quickly. I threw out my slippers
oh
and my
yeah,
house
like I
coat.
said, I'm your grandma and your grandpa.
Yeah.
It's always been the same. And so I go down to the bookstore. I, go to the magazines, find ESPN the magazine, start flipping through, and then one of the last pages. I was like, oh my goodness. So, unbeknownst to me, while I took that picture, some photographer took a picture of me taking that picture. But I'm like, I didn't even know this picture was taken, let alone printed. So of course I had to buy a few, but it was funny because I could post the picture of me of the picture that I took, and then the picture that they took
Yeah.
of me taking the picture. But yeah, it was just one of those where I wasn't afraid to ask, "Hey, do you mind if I'm in this room? Do you mind if I take a quick picture?" And all of a sudden, I have this incredible story. And I mean, what a
Dude.
career he had in Detroit. And to know that in a very, very, very tiny way, I was literally a little blip. Like I got the photographic evidence that
Well, that's just cool. That's just nuts. But that shows how often you're there, right?
I
Where
was.
you're
Well,
like,
that was
and you've
like
got
20 years ago too. So I'm
right.
sure. I'm sure many things have changed since then.
Well, all right. So was it about this time? So okay, walk me through kind of the timeline. There's a point where you're hanging out there and we make, Tigers make some pitching moves, right? Little Christine, who's supposed to be out in left field, is sitting behind the plate, right? Somehow in somebody else's seats, probably, right?
Well, we had a little my little Comerica Park dad, he knew what seats, when people would show up or not, so he
Good.
kinda gave us the,
Yeah.
"Move 2 over and you'll be alright."
There you
So
go. So okay, so you're watching these pitching changes, and then you decide. Most people do this. Here's I'll tell you what most people do. Oh, I can't believe we traded Verlander, right? Oh, I can't believe we traded so and so. It kind of ends right there, right? If we lose a game, we go, oh, you know what, dude? If we had our old pitcher, we would have totally won. That's where it ends. I might even yell at the TV. Who knows? What do you do?
I loved that we had a very strong pitching rotation. I think that it was a beautiful thing to build a team around, which is why I was mad when they moved the fences in and they moved the bullpen. I'm like, no, 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 we built this place for pitchers. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
loved Jeff Weaver. Then he got traded to the Yankees. And I'm like, first of all, I don't want my friend to go away. Secondly, to the Yankees. Oh gosh.
yeah.
And I decided to email Dave Dombrowski as a junior in high school.
Okay,
And
so you're what, 16, 17 years old,
yep,
and you decide your first move is not, oh, that sucks. Or to tell your friend. Your first move is I'm going to email
the
the
president and GM
GM.
team.
Yeah. I'm going to email him to express my concern over moves that I'm sure weren't flippant, right? But we're in the works for quite some time and put a lot of professional thought into. Okay, so let's hear it.
And so I sent him an email requesting a meeting, and lo and behold, he emailed back and said yes. So actually, it was probably in February, I think, before kind of like
Okay.
in between winter meetings and when they would go down to spring training. And it was just a fascinating. We
And what do you
had,
say? Like, yeah, come see me.
yeah,
Let's talk in person. Okay.
yep. And of course, at this time, getting ready to apply for colleges and knowing that, like, I loved being in sport. Like, I loved what it taught me playing sports. And I just loved really that family. So I grew up with baseball and hockey. Those were the two things that, and people would always ask me, which one do you like more? And I'm like, I can't compare. Baseball's my true love, hockey's my passion. Like baseball's that comfortable, like I was there every day. It was truly like family. But then you go to a hockey game, and especially the Red Wings back then, that was a wonderful time to be a Red Wings fan. And so,
Yeah. My gosh.
two totally separate things. But
Yeah.
knowing that I would like my career to be within that, I wasn't going to be playing pro ball anytime soon. And just, further to the discussion, as well as try to understand why certain moves are made when I thought we wanted a strong pitching rotation and you got rid of our number one guy. Come on now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had just a wonderful conversation. He actually also introduced me to Greg Smith, who was the head of scouting at the time. Kind of gave me the lay of the land, explained kind of what his day to day was like. And I mean, really, it was job shadowing before I knew what it was. And
Wow. Did it all make sense when he was talking about it? Were you like, oh, I see why you did that?
well, yeah, and of course, I'm sure a little part of maybe it was just curiosity on his end. I'd love to know to be like, why did you, why did you say this? Were you that bored? But
How cool is that though? I'm sure this guy's getting a ton of emails, ton of calls, right? Ton of complaints, ton of whatever, right? And how neat to go, yeah, Christine, why don't you come in and see me?
the whole thing started from not being afraid to get a no. Like for all these incredible stories that I have of, oh, I got to hold the Stanley Cup, I got to do this, I got to do that. There are a billion times that I asked for something that are like, nah, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Valid.
Yeah.
But it's that 1% when suddenly you get that yes that you're like, oh, it's because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're all just people. We all just want to, connect, to help others, to,
Right. Right.
and he knows that, I mean, well, he knows now that that really set me up for the person that I've become, not just, what I learned at U of M and all of that, but just those personality traits of not being able to put myself out there, not being afraid to get a no, not being afraid to get 1,000 no's, knowing
Yeah.
that eventually a yes will come. And with that is normally a really awesome story too.
That is super cool. And I love that too, because it's all about that mindset. I've got a buddy who it's funny. It's like anytime he gets a no, he's assuming it's going to be a yes, but he thinks no is an acronym for, needs options. And you're like, oh, okay. So he's like, maybe I didn't explain it right. Here's what it is. He's extremely successful. He's awesome. But I love the mindset of like, I know people want to work with me. Like, yeah, you just need options. Like, here, let me tell you, here's how it works. Here's what we're doing. Awesome. Yeah, he does great. So, but that's always been his mindset, right? His whole life. And it's like, I think it's a good way to go into it because, you're going to get a no in life no matter what, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
ask for your raise, you ask for, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? No, right? No is an easy response. It's great, right? Doesn't provide any growth at all, but sets it as no, right? Kind of a delay, a hurdle. I think if you go into that saying no is not a scary answer, it's an answer, right? But if you go, listen, there's probably a route to a yes here. It's a cool thing to do, right? Sometimes it's no is, dude, you're done, right? Like I don't want your sponsorship or your whatever you're doing, right? I'm good. So I guess sometimes no means no.
Yes,
But
let's be clear with
yeah,
that. Sometimes.
yeah, but I think sometimes in business, right? It's it is that thing where you're like, you know what? Yeah, I appreciate you coming back. I said no. I know I said that on email, right? I'm glad you came back and kind of explained what you're doing and how you want to get involved. It leads to a lot of good relationship, which is really really cool. I love that.
Yeah, my favorite would always be when people are like, "Who does your dad know?" I'm like, "Oh, my dad does not know anybody." Like, trust and believe. Like, I know it might seem surprising, but this is all
Yeah,
me. But yes, we will
yeah,
have plenty of baseball and Red Wing stories to keep the masses entertained.
that is funny.
Because sometimes thinking back, I'm like, was that really me? Like, this is like a whole other world that I, I fell into. Like, But yeah, it was. I mean, maybe it was 20 years ago, but
Right.
it was definitely me.
Would you ever want to put on your bucket list, like, would you ever want to visit like every major league baseball stadium in the nation?
It's kind of changed actually. So back in the day, yes. In fact, at one point, I think I even had a whole like map road trip figured out of, all right, if we left in in April and we kind of went along this way. So there was a point in time where that has been the case. But just like anything, you have ebbs and flows, and baseball, especially the Tigers, will always have a phenomenal spot in my heart. What I would love to do these days is Formula One is kind of my bread and butter at the moment. So, instead of going across
You're a Formula One freak, man. Holy cow. You are
so,
into Formula One.
so instead of going across the United States, let's just go across the whole world and
Well,
hit.
you want to go to Japan, right?
Yes, let's go to
Right.
Suzuka. I will
There you go.
absolutely love to. Oh, that right there is truly the dream, to be able to see it. Like, one thing I loved about, because I obviously got into Formula One a little bit later. I have no problem saying I'm a Drive to Survive convert. My husband was a
Hmm.
part of that as well. But unlike, so if I wanted to get into baseball, they're like, all right, you got 30 teams with 30 players. Pick your favorite. Good luck. It's like, whoa, okay. Formula One, 10 teams, two guys a team, same 20 guys racing each other all across the world. It was something that I felt like I could get a grasp on very quickly. And then the more that I dove into it, I realized how much there is to dive into. And
Yeah.
I was hooked. I mean, we have a racing simulator in our house. So we
Of
we are
course you do.
we are,
Of course you do.
I mean, why not do it unless you just
Yeah.
go all the way out?
Yep. Yep. That's crazy. It's cool. It's cool to have a passion like that. It's neat. I remember growing up and, we'd play softball and, played a little bit of baseball, and you go, hey, it's a ton of fun. I don't think I've ever had that goal of like, I want to visit every stadium, right? Every ballpark around. Um, but there are certain places where I go, dude, I'd love to be there, right? Like, it's cool to be, with certain elements, right? Like, I'd love to be, behind the green monster, right? And see what that's all about. That's cool. I would have loved to have been in Camden Yard, right? When Cal Ripken hit a home run, like, you're like, oh, that's cool. There are certain things that are neat, but I do the same thing. Like, hey, it's great when, Iserman retired, what a cool thing. I'd love to see, like, Lemieux, right, at a penalty shootout or something. Like, there are certain elements that I'm like, oh, I'd get into that, but it's like certain time frames, right? Not like the places. So anyway, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
boring that way.
Oh, no, there's
Yeah.
nothing boring about that at all. And here,
Yeah.
we don't want to share too many stories of straight out the gate, but I will sprinkle a little teaser for the next one, and it'll also give us some time to think about it. But
Oh,
to
teaser
think
alert.
about
Okay.
the best game that you were ever in attendance for. So not answer
Oh,
now, but
oh no, dude, I'll tell you what, you know what? I'm going to give one now. I'm
all
going to
right,
give
let's
one
hear
now, and then we'll do it. Okay. This is, and I'll tell you what, if you want to see me pissed off, this is, this is it.
it.
Greatest game. Dude. Okay. So I'm going to set the tone. Here we go. All right. March 25th, 1997.
Say no more. I
Little
know exactly
Marky
where this is going.
gets free tickets, right, to go see a Red Wings game. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. This is so cool. I'm going to be going with these two other women that I work with. Okay, cool. Are they into sports? Found out clearly not, but free tickets. So we go. They decide they're driving. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go. It's March 26th. We go down to Joe Louis. We're getting ready for a game. Red Wings versus the Avalanche. You go, all right, cool. Going to be a good game. Let's do it. Awesome. We're watching the game. It's an exciting game. We're cool. Great seats, by the way. Holy cow. We're like, I think it's like fourth row. Like, you could almost lean over and touch the glass, which is cool. But we're watching the game. It's getting kind of heated. It's cool. Two girls I'm with decide, like, this is like boring. We should totally go. And I'm like, no, let's just stay till the end of the first period. Right. And then it was, no, let's just stay till the end of this, like, just give it 5 more minutes, that kind of thing. So finally it comes a point where like, we're like leaving. We're going. So come with us, whatever. And they're actually really smart. And I'm making them sound like they're not, but they're ready to go. So we end up leaving. We're walking out. And I'm like, dang, dude, this is crazy. We're walking in the parking structure, and I could hear one guy's pulling out, some poor soul pulling out, and he's got the game on the radio. And I could hear them. All of a sudden, there's a big brawl going on. You know the brawl I'm talking about, March 26, 1997, Avalanche Red Wings. Dude, they're going at it. They're doing their thing. Shanahan comes over, he clotheslines a dude. They're just fighting Roz, and everybody's going at it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We get in the car. These two women, they don't care. The next day, and this tells you the year, right? In the paper, they've got a picture, and I think it's like Shanahan throwing a punch, kind of whatever. And if you look up in the crowd, you see 3 seats that are empty. 3 nerds, including me, decided, greatest game ever, let's leave. And that's why it pisses me off.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
So
my heart breaks for you, first of all, because there's nothing worse than when you hear like when you're two steps outside of the gates and you hear some like crazy, and you're like, wait, like you just saw me leave. Like, can I just please,
right?
please go back?
Yeah, that was crazy. I'll tell you, that was just something where I had for the longest time we could not leave a game early. I don't even want to leave a movie early, just in case, like, come on now. I got to see the end credits, right? So you see the gaffer, best boy, all this kind of stuff. And just in case there's something at the end. So that's funny. But that sucks. So anyway, we'll talk about that. The greatest game that you've been in attendance for that you were pleased when you left. We'll have to talk about that next time. So that's good. What else? I think if we're going to do that, I think here's what we need too, is we need, I'd like to hear too, right? Especially growing up. I mean, you were in swimming, you coach swimming, right? Taught it. I want to hear too, like your best piece of advice you've gotten as an athlete, as a professional, whatever it might be, right? What was the best advice you've gotten? So let's get that teed up for the next time too.
I love it. All right.
Yeah. And that's not all. You know who I'd like to see too? Here's what I want. Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. All right. So we talked a little bit and it kind of went through my mind when you were first talking about kind of mindset, right? And kind of pumping yourself up at the beginning versus kind of walking through your routine. What I'd love to do on this show is I want to get a like sports psychiatrist, psychologist,
psychologist, I believe.
A sports.
I don't think they're writing prescriptions. So I think it's psychologist.
Maybe, I don't know. What do I know? All right. But it'd be cool to get them on here, right? And really talk to about, proven things. Like I'm sure they've done studies and, what really works. 'Cause I'd love to help people, especially, I don't know, like when I'm running track, I'd kind of go out there, we kind of get ready, we stretch out, we do our thing, we go, right? There's not much to it, right? You might listen to some good music. That's kind of it. But I wonder if there are certain things, certain tips that a sports psychiatrist would tell us that these are proven ways to like elevate your performance.
I want
to hear that.
I do too. I mean, if anything, it's that I love the hacking your own brain.
Exactly right. Can we do that? Can we have like a little segment that's like hack your brain, hack your health?
Yes.
Hack your something or other. Okay, let's do that. All right. I like it. That'd be cool.
Look at us. I'm proud. Look at episode 1 is officially in the books. We are
in the books. We're done.
Ready to launch ourselves into the world.
Yeah, let's try it.